Alright, so here's all the parts all laid out. So let's go over what the differences are. I'm going to start from the outside and go towards the inward. So I'll show off the diff cover and all that crap on the outside you see on the outside of the transmission, and as we transition through the transmission like you're taking it apart, I'll show you the differences. So let's go. So in all these videos, on the left will be the A413 and on the right is the 31TH. Now these are identical transmissions when it comes to terms of what the code of them is, but this is an 89 it has an 88 year stamping on all parts. This is from a 2000 Dodge Neon. It has 98, so there's roughly a 10-year difference between all these things here. This is the oil pan, and as far as I can tell, they are identical. Pretty much have all the same stampings all the way across. I can't really see anything noticeable on them. Besides, like right here, there's not really much difference. Alright, and here we have the transfer case cover. So as you can see on the older design, there's only one dimple, and on the right, which is the newer design, there's two dimples. And I will show you later on in the video why that is. I believe that's why it is, but flipping it over, clearly a difference on them. Alright, here's the differential cover. Not much difference here besides there's another ear to hold onto either cables or something like that. Flip them over. No real noticeable difference. The hump is the same. It's got the same dimples right here. Just that extra ear, it seems. Alright, and here we have the driver's side axle outputs, or the shafts for the axles here. So surprisingly, I think the older design is a little nicer. So the casting on it looks a tiny bit better. You can see there's a little more fine detail going on in here. You look at the newer design and it's just kind of a lump. So maybe the cast they were using are finally wearing down or something like that. Other than that, there's no real noticeable difference on these. It's not like extra heavy duty or anything by any means from what I can tell. It's pretty exact. This is, I believe, the passenger side axle housing. This is where it gets a little different. So on the newer design, you can see it's physically a different shape than the older design. It has a little more material on it, and this looks like it has a 3-inch bearing in it. And this has a about 2.5-inch bearing. So this is actually should be stronger. I noticed in mine is that there's a little more lip in here, which means it might be a little stronger on this point. As you can see, there's a little dimple in mine on the new side one, so it's possible that because this is a thicker flange right here, that it's actually stronger than this. I probably need to knock that seal back in correctly, or flange. On the back side, nothing really noticeable. And I believe if you look at the last housing in this one, this is a Mopar factory seal in here. This is an aftermarket one I knocked in there when I first got the car. So don't pay any mind to that. This might be a better design, it might be the same design. I don't know. I'm not a expert on gaskets and seals by any means. Alright, so this is the differential. Older, newer, as before. Noticeable differences is you'll see in the old one design, if this will focus, that this is a roll pin holding in this diff pin. On the new one, it looks like an actual pin was shoved into there. It doesn't, I don't think it's peened or anything by any means, but much better design there. This pin, as you can see, is hollow. It can come apart. On machining wise, this one has a groove underneath the spider gears for some reason. The new one does not. It is completely flat. Kind of a weird thing there. Gear wise, these material look the same. There might be different ratios because it kind of depends on what car you get it from, what the rings are. These are both the nicer 12 bolt style. If you have an older turbo car or a older NA car, either way, this will be an 8 bolt and it'll be kind of a crappy design. I mean, it works. It's kind of fine unless you're beating on it. No matter what, if you're building one of these transmissions, put the bat ears on here. It's a tab that goes on these 2 bolt holes here, and it covers this pin. So even if this pin gets broken or this roll pin comes out, this diff pin doesn't come, you know, halfway out here, and this thing's spinning, you know, 1,000 RPM. It's gonna smash the case, and which made of aluminum, it's gonna blow up. One big noticeable difference with this bigger, newer diff is this bearing, which you saw in the axle shaft housing. And look at the size on that bad boy. Look at the size of that bad boy. I'll put them closer together in one frame. Clearly, much bigger bearing here. And I think the axles fit between the two, so there should be no real reason why you can't swap this. The other thing I noticed, it's really hard to pick up on video, I don't know if this crap is all blurry or not, is that the casting actually looks nicer on the new diff. It's just the metal looks a little more defined as opposed to the old design. You can even see with the model number right here versus the new one. It's kind of more illegible, better casting over here. So I thought that was pretty neat. Alright, here's a pretty noticeable difference on this one as well. This is the pump for the transmission, so this is what actually drives all the hydraulic fluid through it. So if we look at the older design, flatten it out, pull the out, and here's the pump gears. Now I'll probably put on the screen what kind of pump these gears are, because I don't really know what the name of them are, but it's like a crescent pump or something. I'll put on the screen what it is. So if you can see this design, how many teeth there are and whatnot. And if you look at the newer design, it's more like a traditional oil pump that you'd see like in a motor, with how many teeth it has and the engagement and the roundings on it. And this one actually, to me, feels like it gauges easier. Mind you, there's no fluid in this. Oil. Don't blast me. So I thought that was interesting how they changed the pump design. I think other than that, there's no other real noticeable differences. I need to do research on this, but in my preliminary test of just shoving it onto the old case, I think it'll work fine. Besides, there's this oil valley right here that you can see mimics this one. They kind of go out, straight out almost. And this one, on the new one, goes at an angle. I'm not sure how that affects it, or if the gasket material, or it's possible in the housing that I can't use this pump because there's a hole in a different spot. I will check that out later, but that's the pumps. Alright, and these are the clutch packs. So we have the front and rear. This one is the direct, the bottom is the direct because that's the one put on the input shaft. Now, there's not going to be much visual difference between the two, but take my word on it and research that once you take the clutch packs off, so here's the front, here's the new one, front for the old one. They don't look too much difference, other than you'll see that the groove is actually higher in here for the snap ring than it is here. Now, the real benefit to using the new design is it's like some of the later turbo cars. This one can fit four clutches in it versus this 3. This one, without machining in a higher groove into it, don't even waste your time with it. This you can get from turbo cars or the 31TH, the new ones, or an A670, I believe. You get 4 clutch packs in here, and I believe both direct drums both have the 4, but where the big difference is here. This you might be able to shim it to, like, using thinner steels from A413, you might get 4 in here. This one, people have got up to 7 with machining, whatnot, but with very little effort you can get 5 in here. so you can get a little more bite to it, especially 5/3. Good deal having the 5. So this is where the majority of the load will be taken, so this is something you want to upgrade. I'm not showing the bands on the outside because as far as I tell, they're identical. They're made by the exact same manufacturer through this entire period. They have the same casting on them, same casting number, same casting like identifier for the company that made them. So I'm not going to show those off. Alright, and this is where I get a little, I'm not really sure 100% what I'm talking about, one of the names of these, but I believe this is called the Sun Shell, and this is the override clutch or something like that. There's a lot of difference between these, so we'll pull out the first section of it, and as you can see, there's planet gears and then a sun gear. Pull out this one, new design. The big difference between these two, there's 4 planetary gears, and on this one there's 5. And now I think they're identical size to these, or maybe slightly smaller, but there's a lot more surface area on the newer design, so that'd be a big benefit to upgrade with this. From what I understand, it's a good thing to actually weld these, TIG weld these all the way up from what they are now, trying to give them more chance to survive. Now the sun gears, the sun gears, I think they are just identical basically from what I can tell. Maybe there's different metallurgy going on, I don't know. And then here's another difference. These are the same between the two. I'll put on the screen what it's called. I'm not very good at my terminology yet. This other difference is on the new design. This metal, from just looking at it, looks like it's got a lot more material in it between the gaps here. As you can see, there's just like empty gaps here and there on this. This one's fully solid, and it looks like these are all bolted together. This one has removable screws or bolts, or what you want to call them, with heads on them. This has like headless bolts on it or something. It's like they somehow drove this in there without having to deal with the heads on them. I thought that was kind of interesting. Not sure why they did that, but this one looks like a much more beefy design. Plus you got the 5 planetary gears right here, so that's a good upgrade. And go on from here. If you look at the transfer gear here, I'll show you at the same time. These transfer gears, pretty standard on the old style. It's just big old nut holding on 2 different gears that kind of determine your gear ratio. Simple, nothing crazy. Now let me show you the 31TH one. And here's the transfer gear set up on the 31TH. Obviously it looks a little different. So on here, you can see that it's kind of hard to understand what this is all really for. You have the nut holding the entire assembly down, and then there is these perches that are butted up against the sides of it, which are locked down with bolts that have little ears coming off another tang. So it's like it just keeps this all from falling apart. I don't know if there was really a big deal about them falling apart, but there you go. I guess you just have to knock these ears down, take the bolts out, take the rest of the assembly off, and then you can take the big nuts off. I unfortunately don't have to unless something else comes up, but I'm going to leave it like it is. So that's just one small difference. Just kind of crazy how they went to this much level to get it to work like that. Alright, and here's the valve bodies. So here's the old design. Here's the new design. Right away, I can tell that the older design has a worse casting to it. The new one has a much more defined shapes to it. You can definitely tell right in this region that there is a significant difference in quality when it comes to this casting here. Whoop-de-doo, I kind of broke this off, so there's visual differences because I was being an idiot and yanking on things. See, the one big difference I saw externally is on the bottom here. I got water in this one, by the way, that's why there's just coming out of it. So this one, if I can it stay. Anyway, right here was bolted that flange with a tube. This old one doesn't have that spot for it. Or my bad, it's right here, I think. Yeah, that spot. It's missing on that one. So what that goes to is there's a spot in the case where it goes up into the bell housing area, and I believe it shoots oil maybe into the pump, or maybe just kind of helps circulate around the clutches or something like that. But that's really cool that they upgraded the design of the valve body to have an external kind of fluid area to it. I don't know if these are interchangeable between the two. I'm going to do more research on that, because I would like to run a newer design valve body. Maybe I'm being an idiot, or maybe I'm just assuming too much, but because you can get a manual valve body that interchanges between the old one and the new type of transmission, and then you can get shift kits for both, same part numbers for both. Maybe there's not enough difference between the two that I can't run them. I know the major thing I would have to do is take off this bracket right here and change it with this one, because this is the lockup torque converter solenoid. I don't know if this is has the same voltage and amperage range and all that resistance and whatnot, but I kind of already broke it, so it's kind of I gotta use it anyway. Well, I guess we'll see on that one. Other than that, I think the valve body is about identical, at least on the outside. The inside is a different story, and I might have to make a different video about that when I'm getting into it, because eventually I will be. But I think for this video, this is a little much into it. Alright, here's one small difference between the 31TH and the A413. So this is the Bonneville spring out of the 31TH, and as you can see, it's broken, so I can't use it. But if you look at the peaks of it, every peak has a double peak on it. It's like little fingers. The old style Bonneville spring, there's I think double right there and double on the opposite side. Other than that, all the fingers are flat. I don't know if there's any structural difference between that and this. Otherwise, they look completely identical. And from what I can see online, you can't really buy these. They all look like that. And they're aftermarket, they're not Mopar ones. I'm sure you can find Mopar ones, but I couldn't find any reasonably priced ones. So I'll just go with taking one out of another one. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Alright, and so when it comes to the internals of the transmission, this bore right here for this, I think this is the one that controls the automatic shifting, possibly. Just a small difference here is that the spring is different. See, this one has a little spindly, longer spring. This one has a shorter, thicker spring. Now, pushing down between the two, this one has a little more resistance than this one was. But, alright, here's another one for this middle accumulator piston. On the left is the new one, on the right one is the A413, so 312H on the left here. You can see the spring is shorter. Now, pressing down on them, this one is a lot harder to compress than this one. If I had to guess, this is probably a 60-pound spring. This one, if I had to guess, I don't know, probably like 100 and something pound spring. And then the actual top of it, the sealer, this one has a lot worse quality on it, and this one has a much nicer finish to it. So, kind of like everything else on the new transmission, all the internal parts look a lot nicer and have a better finish to them. The piston cups themselves are slightly different. This one's slightly shorter on the bottom, a little less overhang. I don't know if there's any functional difference between the two, but I think I'm going to try to use the newer style one. I'm going to look in the bores and make sure the bores are the same size, and if they are, then cool, I'll run this one. I think that covers a majority of the changes. If you guys got any questions, let me know. If I got anything wrong, please correct me in the comments, and I will pin your comment. I'd rather have correct information out there than me just putting information out there. I'd rather be right. Now, I'm trying to be as correct as I can be here, but transmission stuff is a lot to take in. Like, I don't know all the names of the parts yet, obviously. This is all new to me. I've built many engines. Transmissions are different. There are a giant hydraulic pump. A engine is an air pump. Not much needs to happen in that thing when it comes to ins and outs. Transmission wise, there's lots of little things that need to happen in the correct order. It doesn't just spin, and that's all it does, like an air pump would. There's a lot of modulation and input and output coming out of these things. No, these are fully mechanical, so you can put them in pretty much whatever you want, but it gets even extra complicated when they become electronic. Now, to me, this is almost like black magic. I know, I understand how automatic transmissions work, but there's a lot of engineering that went into having valve bodies fully hydraulic do what you want them to do. It's pretty crazy to me. You know, when we move into the future, things get more complicated, but they're also easier. Fuel injection is much easier to understand than carburation. Carburation isn't hard to understand. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the way it works is so much easier. You have pressure to something, and you just open a solenoid, and poof, fuel comes out. There's no Venturis and random crap that do that kind of junk. This is like carburetor for transmission. You know, it'd be cool if the computer could tell it when to shift and how to do it and all this whatnot, but you can't. You have to do blah 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 blah. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. This is in the video. Like, comment, subscribe, blah 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 blah. Peace.